Where did he come from? What is he after? Where in the world is
ML Elrick?
Join top Acme agents
Shawn Windsor
and Shadow Hawkins as they travel the world in pursuit of the crafty, clever, cunning
ML Elrick.
You asked it around your question around my suit. It's gone.
What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
All right, hey boys and girls, it's not ML Elrick again. It's Marc Fellhauer with you, and Shawn Windsor. Good morning, Shawn. How are you?
Not too bad.
Bringing you the Soul of Detroit, sponsored by Luke Nowacki and the Caju Cafe, and we are in search of the world traveler, Mike Elrick. And I think we might actually have found him. This time he is in a car. See him there? He real recently was over in Europe. We'll find out about that. And now we'll find out about where he's going. Because I was really confused. Are you with us, ML?
I am.
I was really confused because you told me you could do it from the car Monday, and then this and that. Your travel schedule has just been all over the place because you were in Canada yesterday, correct?
I think it's Monday where I was tomorrow. I'm either 5 hours ahead or 5 hours behind. And, when I went to Australia many, many years ago, I called a friend who was having a surprise party. And I called her to say, hey, I'm really sorry I missed your party last night. And she said, what party? Because it turns out it's actually tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That's
you're a day behind when you're in Australia, or a day ahead.
It's crazy.
I can never remember.
Crazy how time works, huh?
You look dapper, though.
Thank you. I am on my way to the Mackinac Policy Conference with my colleagues, Clara Hendrickson, who you've heard on this show, and Khalil Hajil. He is the Michigan Press Association. Oh, no, sorry. That's me. He's the Detroit SPJ Opinion Writer of the Year. He finished first. I finished third. And now I'm getting chauffeured. Last year I won and I didn't get dick. Not a raise, not a kind word from a boss. So I think this coming in third thing is the way to go.
Whose car are you in? Are in your car?
Well, Khalil said he'd drive, but he insisted on using my car and my gas, and he may have done some damage to my tie rods. So it's kind of I
don't know if that's
it's
really
sort of
being chauffeured.
Thing.
So before we get into the stories that Shawn wants to hear of your Europe travels, what should we expect in Mackinac? Like, what's the big thing going on in Mackinac that affects the state and politics in the state? And Shawn, I'll wake you up when he's done.
No, keep it brief if you may.
Well, I'm honestly curious. There's a big mayoral race coming up. I don't know if that reaches all the way up to Mackinac. There's a big governor's race coming up. I don't know if that is going to be the focus. What is going to be the focus?
And there's a big U.S. Senate race coming up, too.
Yep.
So there's going to be a mayoral debate, which I'll be attending and writing about. There are going to be some meet and greets with the Senate candidates and with the gubernatorial candidates. People who are holding office currently, like Jocelyn Benson and Mike Duggan, are on the agenda. So they have a little more face time with the assemblage by virtue of their elected position. Which I think kind of pisses the challengers off a little bit because they feel like, well, why don't I get a spot? It's like, well, guess what, pal? You're not the Secretary of State. You're not the mayor of Detroit. But I think one of the most important things that you're not going to see here, but is one of the most important things that's happening here, is how many of these business leaders who haven't had a chance to talk to Mike Duggan about running for governor as an independent in the salons, in the hotel rooms, behind closed doors, to discuss what they can do to help him become next governor. And
sounds like backdoor dealings.
Sounds like an excuse to go ride bikes.
I'll be riding a bike too, but this will be a pedal bike. This will be 1 horsepower.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just so cynical about the whole thing of what goes on at Mackinac. I feel like it's just, I don't know if it really serves the regular constituent in the city and then the state. And it seems like it's more for the political makers and the business makers to get deals.
It's a big deal for the nonprofits who try and raise money here, and it's a big deal for people with political aspirations. You may remember that I went up there in 2021 when I was running for city council, Marc made me carry all sorts of apparatus that made it almost impossible to move around, and none of it actually worked in the end.
So it's Mark's fault.
I think most people will call that user error.
Oh, I can totally concede to that. But when you give an idiot a tool and you expect him to build
a hot idiot, can we establish that?
Shuttle,
can we say that?
They're not going to get off the ground.
I mean, a very hot idiot. Seriously.
Why are you so focused on his looks today?
Because he looks great. The sunglasses.
Well, the sunglasses, I imagine,
really curly Q. You know, I wish I had the hair. I think that's probably.
I think the sunglasses are to hide very, very baggy eyes.
He's looking stylish.
International travel.
I noticed that in the photos of Europe. You know, he looked good. I was like, wow, an American over there looking, dashing.
Just comb it over from your back, Shawn.
I wish I could.
We call that a shoulder pompadour.
I wish I could. I don't know that I have much hair back there. That wouldn't do me any good.
Shawn is very intrigued by your travel log of where you went and what you did. So fire away.
Yeah, but just real quickly, I did last week's show from St. Louis, Mike. I was down there with the Tigers Cardinals, and we had Dan Wetzel on. We started talking about jail and had we been to jail and so forth. I just want you guys to know this is the reach of the soul of Detroit.
Oh, yeah?
So the next day, I get a call. I think I'm at the airport. Maybe I'm trying to come back. I get a call from my youngest son, and I answer the phone. I say, "Hey, bud," and he says, "You were in jail? You never told me you were in jail." So what
before he was born, right?
Yeah. So what happened is he does, of course, listen to this podcast. No. Your own child would never do that.
No, God, no.
I don't know if Mike's daughters do that or not, but he listens to Couch in the Rube with Graham Couch, the columnist for the Lansing State Journal. Turns out the Rube is an enormous fan of Soul in Detroit and just the Red Shovel Network in general. He's a big Drew guy, and he started kind of just fell into our show and loves our show. So he started talking about on their show, on the air, of course, that I was in jail, and my son listens to that show. So
how long were you in jail for?
So I get a call.
Did we ever clear
my
that up?
Son, thinking I was safe talking about it on this show, but no. The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
How long were you in jail for?
Not that long.
I was just saying,
just a few hours. I just wanted Mike to know the reach of the soul of Detroit. I thought that was nice.
Did you tell people what you had to do to survive in jail?
I had to sit there. I had to sit there and pretend I was sober.
I heard you got turned out for 6 Marlboros.
Oh God, turned out. Jesus, nice phrase. Have you ever been in jail, Elrick?
I was once in the reception area of the Grosse Pointe Police Department. They were considering putting me in jail because I had foolishly tried to outrun the entire police department in a high-speed chase, which obviously did not work out as well as I had hoped.
That sounds great. We got to hear more about that.
How long ago was this?
Here's the crazy thing. This is how.
And speak of white privilege, geez, they were debating whether or not after a police chase, whether or not to lock you up.
Is there such a thing as white privilege in Grosse Pointe?
No, it's just privilege.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had initially
Everybody's white.
succeeded because I got around a corner and I pulled in a driveway and killed all the lights and we all ducked down. But there were so many cops out that they realized immediately that we weren't in front of them anymore, and they backed out and kind of canvassed the area. And the next thing I know, there's a bunch of guns drawn telling us to get out of the car. And the sergeant who was on duty at the time, the shift supervisor, and you got to be really deep in the get the bell ready, Kilpatrick lore to get this name. But it was Sergeant Furtaw, who I don't mention because he eventually became Chief Furtaw, but because his son, Terry Furtaw, who I'd played street hockey with, was Mike Cox's top assistant when they did the Manugian Mansion investigation. And so here's my claim to Mike Cox lore. I was at an investigative reporting conference talking to, Tom Furtaw, not Terry Furtaw. I was talking to Tom Furtaw, and I was trying to get an update on the investigation. I thought I've known this guy a long time. Maybe he'll give me a little inside juice. Didn't really happen. But he said, what do you make of it? And I said, well, and again, for those of you who follow the Kilpatrick thing, this phrase will ring strongly in your ear, redolent in your ear. I said, this thing has all the makings of an urban legend. And he's like, We think so too. A month or so later, Mike Cox has a press conference, says, yeah, we found that they got overtime that looks questionable. We found that Christine Beatty exceeded her authority. These things we think can be dealt with administratively or civil matters. So we don't find anything criminal. We've investigated the Manoogian Mansion party, and we find that it has, wait for it, all the makings of an urban legend. I'm sitting there, I almost dropped my pen. I thought, you mother son of, you're stealing my shit.
That really.
Wait a second. What about
And
jail?
Tom, by the way, then I was working late one Friday night, just coincidentally.
And this has to
and
do with the
something
jail
comes over
story?
the scanner that a guy who was performing at some festival outside the Winter Garden by the Renaissance Center on the riverfront died. The guitar player in some band dropped dead. Young guy, stone dead. It was Tom Furtaw. 35, 40 years old,
why were you running
playing guitar.
So why were you running from the cops?
And so I wrote his obituary on deadline. It was very strange. And then I got a nice thank you note from his dad, which brings us full circle to Shawn's question. When you're kids and you have access to a V8 engine, sometimes just doesn't happen where you grew up, Shawn. This happens where Yankees are. You try and outrun your friends. And when you're in a small community where there's cops all over, that's not a good idea either.
So there were only V8 engines in Michigan? Is that the moral of the story?
No, he just had to open it up, I guess.
I had access, to an ungodly amount of horsepower, and I wasn't going to let that opportunity go by. So we're going down Middlesex. In fact, right in front of Jeff Eugenides' house, the author of Middlesex and the Virgin Suicides and all that other shit.
Uh-huh.
And it's a boulevard, and my buddy didn't know this neighborhood, and there's a cutaway, there's a turnaround, and I knew it was coming up. So I must have hit that thing about 75 miles an hour, locked it up through the wheel hard to the left, fishtail, and when it straightened out, I just stomped the pedal, and I just rocket down the other side of Middlesex going south at, I don't know, like Mach 1 or something. And behind my buddy, there's an unmarked cop car. And I'm like, oh, shit. And, your mind goes blank at times like that. And the problem is when there's a vacuum, something fills it. I'm not blaming anybody here. This was my responsibility. I take full responsibility, and I paid the fines and all that other shit. But my buddy goes, what are we going to do? Lose them? And because I had no thought in my head whatsoever, that filled the void. And all I thought was, yeah. And I knew we had a buddy who lived around the corner. I used to play hockey in his backyard. And so I just whipped around the corner, whipped in his driveway, cut the lights, ducked down. The cops doubled back. And then on Monday, I can't remember whether my buddy said something or not, but this other dude said, hey, we had a lot of cops in our driveway over the weekend. I don't know what the hell was going on. I said, yeah, I don't either.
So wait, though, they actually
shit happened.
They took you in to the precinct, and then they just said, yeah, you'd let you go, no ticket, no nothing.
Yeah, this is Grosse Pointe. I was a white guy, and I wasn't Jewish, so they didn't want to mess with me. That's the way it was in Grosse Pointe. If you're a white boy, they probably it's a catch and release situation. I mean, although back then, if you were Jewish, they didn't want you in Grosse Pointe either. That was a big thing with the realtors back then. But I'm told things are getting better, but this is why I live on the other side of Mac.
I think we have an opportunity here for an unscientific poll, but a poll of the colleagues that he is riding with right now, Mark.
Yeah.
Mike just spoke for the last 4 or 5 minutes. Let's ask the two of your passengers, co-passengers, which part of that story they found the most interesting.
Yeah, turn the phone around.
Yeah, turn the phone around. Ask them what part of that they enjoyed the most. I'd be curious.
Especially since they only heard half.
I'm wearing ear pods, so
Okay,
I
you can
have to disconnect.
No, you can just ask them and then relay the answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're not going to get out of this one. Just do it.
That's fine. This pause is brought to you by the Caju Cafe, where on Wednesday it's Detroit's longest running karaoke night. On Thursday, the Bill Meyer Group Trio has an open jazz jam session. It's Detroit's longest running jam session. Friday, it's Super Crunch. You know them. They're the Grateful Dead tribute band. Saturday, Jim McCarty and Mystery Train will be performing. It's also a birthday party with Jim and Johnny B. That's John the B. Bedanchik, for those of you guys who know Detroit music. And Monday, no live music Sunday, but still a good time. Monday, Tasha Owens and the Stable Dudes Open Jam goes from 8:30 to 11:45 p.m. And it's Muscle Madness, all you can eat mussels, which in France they call those moules frites, which is mussels and French fries. I'm sure Shawn likes them. Not my cup of tea, but good shit. So okay, now that we've done a little, by the way, check out CajuCafe.com to find out what's going on there. My daughters are working there now, and they're really loving it. And I'm looking forward to getting back there now that I'm in town. And, of course, August 1st, Soul Night. That's a Friday night. We're going to have the King's English. We're going to have Shasta Fox, maybe get another band in there. But would love to have you all come out and meet us. And if you're a member of the Soulmates, there'll be an opportunity for some VIP experiences and some cool freebies. So, and Shawn's offered to let everybody who comes to this event sit on his lap for a photo. He'll be wearing pants. Hold on,
Marc.
It's not like when he was in jail.
He clearly doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to ask the question.
I'm going to survey. Okay, hold on. Okay, I hate to put you guys on the spot, but Shawn wants to know if you found any part of the high-speed chase story interesting, and if so, which part?
They're so focused.
Yeah, this is Shawn Windsor. He likes to drag people into his shit.
They're so focused on driving, they're not even paying attention to the live show that he's doing in the back seat. They're so used to tuning him out.
Okay, Khalil says he liked the high-speed chase part the best, and Clara said she liked the urban legend part the best.
No, I gotta say. So Clara was listening, but I gotta say, based on the question, you said high-speed chase. That's the right answer if you're not paying attention. I like the high-speed chase part.
And they also said they liked the part about Shawn being used as currency in the penal system.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. So it's
why don't you go back to Europe?
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about that. We're talking about some shit that happened in 1984.
I know. I'm sorry that we're interesting.
This podcast is going to go on for 7 hours. We're never going to get to
Marc, will you explain it to him, please?
in Lyon, France.
Will you explain it to him, please, Marc?
Explain what? That people like to hear stories of being locked up, especially from people that you don't expect to have been locked up?
They do. They just do.
Technically not locked up. Taken into custody and released.
It's called finding an interesting nut graph.
It's really interesting.
We've
all been at 3 different layers because you've actually been locked up with the bars closed.
Yep.
Elrick's been taken down to the precinct
and then let go because of his good looks.
And I've only been detained inside a cop car. So,
were you handcuffed?
Yeah. No. But I told you before, I really realized being fat and big that I don't ever want to end up in the back of the cop car because there's just no room back there.
No, there's not.
It's just uncomfortable.
It's
not because I was in any kind of trouble legally or anything. It's just physically I don't fit in the back of a cop car.
Did you bump your head?
Here's the other reason you don't want to be in the back of a cop car. They now have cameras back there. And when I was at Fox 2, and we got video of Scott Benson after he was taken into custody when he was found unconscious on a Sunday afternoon on a service drive with a bottle of Buffalo Trace whiskey under the front seat of his city car.
Good weekend.
He's on his way to church, I guess. But we got the best video, the most high-definition video we had at that time came from the back of the cop car.
I'm always amazed that people that get arrested there's so many cop cams online now. It's its own economy, basically, where people watch them and laugh at these idiots and how they fight the police. But I'm always amazed that they don't realize they're being filmed, especially inside the cop car. I mean, how many times have people get busted talking about stuff in the back of a cop car? You see it a lot.
Absolutely, and they're bombed. And when we... When we were figuring out how to tell the story, we did something on a green screen where we actually put me in the back of the cop car with Scott Benson. and Benson says to the cop in the front seat, he's like, is there any way that we can, make this go away? And when we shot it, I'm sitting right next to him and the camera moves over to me. I was like, yeah, I don't think so, pal. But we ended up not putting it on the air because we were afraid it may seem like we were making light of drunken driving, and so we didn't use it. But in terms of greatest outtakes ever, I mean, and the green screen was so good. It looked like I was sitting right next to him in the back of the cruiser. It was unbelievable.
That's funny. I don't think people would think you were making fun of drinking and driving. I think they would think you were making fun of the person who did it, who was supposed to be in a city-owned car, right?
Yeah. Well, last time I saw Scott Benson out and about was on Mackinac. He was riding a bike. He's an avid bike rider, and I was riding a bike, and I waved him. I said, "Hey, Councilman, how you doing?" And he just tried to mean mug me. And I said, "Oh, that's how it's going to be? Okay. All right, then." He's still a big baby all these years later.
I was going to say,
whatever.
Once again, it's a person who's mad because they were caught doing something. I mean, they were the ones doing it, right? They just don't like the fact that you busted them. So why don't you make everybody jealous? Tell us about the trip and where you went and all the wonderful things that you did.
The roots. We want to hear the story about your roots.
Roots.
Well, I'll get you caught up. We got a lot to cover between
No, we don't.
1984 and 2025. Where do I start?
With your going to see your people and meeting your family.
Oh, yeah. Well, so I have a cousin, Nicholas O'Sullivan, who is named for my great-grandfather. And when I was in Ireland in 1991, I worked at a youth hospital in County Kerry. And before I left, I looked up some relatives of mine. And because the Irish are incredibly gracious people, I went to go knock on their door and say, hey, and I was immediately asked to drive them in most rickety Ford Escort ever. I mean, I went to move the seat back because I'm a little taller than your average Irish person. Although I will say we do have a lot of height in the O'Sullivan clan. I went to move the seat back, and it just moved back. The tracks it was sitting in had been rusted out. So it was basically a lawn chair sitting inside a motorized vehicle. And so my cousin Sheila Kennedy and my cousin Noreen, who sadly died of cancer shortly after that, who was hilarious. She's what they'd call a gas woman in Ireland. Just one of the funniest people you'd ever met. Insist that we see every relative that we could find. So we drove down to Cork, and I met Nicholas, who at the time was 1 year old, and his father, who at the time was 35 years old, and his wife and his sisters. So Nicholas's wife found out about the podcast and told Nicholas about it. He reached out to me, sent me an email a few years ago. We've corresponded off and on, and it's been my goal to go back and see him. And I will tell you, it didn't disappoint. Just wonderful people. And the funny thing is, when I went to go see him, he's 35 and has a 1 year old son. So I said, well, next time I see you, you're going to be a grandfather, and I guess they'll have to bring my coffin over there because I don't think I got another 35 in me.
Or your ashes.
But it was great. So we went to go see and
just saying, spread the ashes over there.
Son. Or Nicholas's father, Michael, is still with us and doing well. And he hosted us last time. So he drove us to the family cemetery it's outside a little town called Castle, Maine, which you may have heard of. It's a famous Irish rebel song. Jack Duggan was his name, fighting man, boy from Castle, Maine. I know I messed up the lyrics, but that's the way it goes when you're sleep deprived. And he took us to the family burial plot where there are O'Sullivans going back to like 1400 who are buried there. And around the corner, there's a small plot with a bunch of Duggans in it. Well, obviously Duggan is a fairly common Irish name. But according to my cousin Michael, there aren't that many Duggans around. And so there's a chance that I am a distant relative of our mayor, Mike Duggan. So I took a picture of myself with the Mike Duggan headstone, and I texted to him and I said, hey, I just found out we might be distant cousins. I hope this isn't used against you in the governor's race. And of course, being a man with a great sense of humor, he never responded.
God, did you make out with a Blarney Stone? That was one long story.
Kissed it twice in 91.
Yeah, but did you guys hug? Were there tears shed? Did you break bread? What'd you do?
I mean, it's kind of weird. And I don't have roots like that. Like I have no idea, if I have where I have family throughout the world. Well, my father was, and
mine too.
And my mom, a lot of my mom's side are what you would call straight up hillbillies that have been here for a long time. So there's not much over there to root onto. But it's weird because you meet these people like Elrick did, and I think we just lost him. But you meet these people, Shawn, and they're still relative strangers. You don't really know them.
Well, they're total strangers.
That's weird.
Not even relative strangers.
Dude, that's just kind of weird to stay with somebody and hang out with somebody that you really don't know, other than that you share a lineage.
The power of the clan, the power of tribalism, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe I just wouldn't want to stay with strangers in general.
You just don't like people.
No, I
in general, unless they're in a documentary.
I hate that when people say that.
Why do people say that? Why do people say that? Unless you're watching a documentary from a safe distance of a television screen, right?
I suppose. I mean, I love.
That's when you want to know about strangers.
I love individuals. I just don't want to stay at their house, and I don't want them staying at my house. Is that weird?
So while we're waiting,
unusual.
No, it's not unusual at all. While we're waiting for Mike to come back, have you been watching Murderbot?
No. Is it worth?
It kind of is.
Like I said, I've been way too busy watching documentaries.
So you're off the drama narrative. Fiction.
No, I've been looking for something to watch, and I've been waiting for somebody to recommend something like Murderbot
or Sirens, if you want some campy kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. That really didn't do it for me. No, but instead I watched the Tylenol Murders. And the fall of Brett Favre and the Sherry Papini documentary.
Okay, well, you've been on a roll.
Oh my God, I love docs. Let's see, is he back? There he is. He's back. I was just saying, Elrick, I think it's just really weird, and I don't know if you feel this way, but you feel at home pretty much everywhere, that you don't really know these people and you're still hanging out with them.
Oh, you know yourself. Yeah, no,
I mean, did you like all of them, or did you ever butt heads with any of them?
I grew up very unwealthy, short and chubby in Grosse Pointe, so I'm used to being not liked. So if anybody even acknowledges me, I'm like the dog that gets slapped a lot. You scratch my back once, and we're pals. So no, these are wonderful people, and I think you have to, if you're curious about your history, and I'm a big fan of all kinds of history. I'm not so crazy about some of the history we're making here in 2025, but that's another story. But I think you have to put yourself out there a little bit and get uncomfortable, and meet new people has always been not my one of the things that I am totally comfortable with. But the more you do things you're not comfortable with, the easier it gets. And by doing things you're not comfortable with, when you have an amazing opportunity like meeting some of your cousins, it's, you're grateful not only for the opportunity, but they're wonderful. We spent just a fantastic day together, and then we went to dinner in Cork, and I met more cousins and their spouses, and learned more stories and learned more about
What'd you eat?
My grandmother.
What'd you eat? What kind of food did you eat? Did you break bread with?
Pasties? Or no, not what are they called? What are the little pancake things called? Boxties.
Boxties. Yeah, no, I didn't have any boxties. The whole time I lived in Ireland, I lived there for about 6 months. A buddy of mine came to travel with me, and he said, "Boy, the only thing I regret before we leave is that I haven't had any of the food." I'm like, "You're not missing much."
Well, that was back in the early 90s.
Unless you like fish, which I don't, but it's boiled. It's shepherd's pie is great.
Blood pudding. You didn't have any blood pudding?
Dude, who are you talking to? You think I had blood pudding? No.
Why not? It's just like it's basically sausage.
Yeah.
Just the fillers, blood, and oats.
Here's the main question, though. Did your cousins like the Smiths?
Of course.
Did you have that in common?
I think they appreciate new wave music. I didn't ask them. We were getting along so well. I didn't want to. Okay. And didn't want to find out that there was some Windsor blood in there.
Before you joined this podcast and this car ride, were you making your car mates listen to the Smiths?
No, I dutifully handed over the keys and got in the back seat immediately, so I could be here early, like every week.
Are you going to demand control of the radio as soon as you hang up?
We muted it.
What? You have to talk to each other.
We'll probably be putting First Wave on shortly.
It's really interesting. You mentioned, the history we're making in 2025, and I haven't been to Europe in a long time. In your travels, did you talk to either your relatives or people you ran into about their opinion of the United States right now? And do they even have one? Do they even care?
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump makes headlines there. I mean, he just announced 50% tariffs against all of Europe, so that's big news.
And then rescinded them.
Europe is very concerned about what's going on in the Ukraine, and so his dalliance with Putin. By the way, didn't he say he was going to solve this on the first day? What day is this? It's like 120, 150, something like that. I don't know.
That's
whatever.
That's campaign talk.
Yeah. So yeah, Trump make headlines there. And people want to know what Americans think of him.
That's what I was wondering. Do they have an opinion, or is it like, what's going on over there? Is it as bad as it seems? I mean, and then
they don't like him.
They don't.
They think he's a fool.
Interesting. Those are your relatives or everybody?
They think roughly 50% of American voters are fools as well.
Oh, interesting.
There's when I was there in 2016, before the election, there was a bit of graffiti I saw in an alley, not too far from St. Stephen's Green, which is the big park there, where there was a little skirmish during the Easter uprising. And I didn't take a picture of it. I wish I had. And it said, "I don't blame Trump. I blame you." And it was basically an Irishman's opinion that if this idiot gets in there, it's your fault, not his. And I think that's still a common sentiment in Europe, because they just, they know we're a little rough around the edges. Also, in 2016, we were walking, Teresa and I, when the girls were walking along the Liffey, which is the river that goes through Dublin. Mm-hmm. And we ran into an Irish guy and just sort of struck up a conversation, went for a pint with him. And his whole thing was, America's a country of guns. You're made by guns. You live by guns. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing was, all that matters in America is guns. And I found it very hard to argue with him.
I mean, it's a big part of our culture, but it's not all. It's quite a broad brush.
Well,
if you think of a gun as a totem, we're all about, we're going to do it the hard way. We're going to fight for things. If you have a problem with us, you risk getting shot. I mean, there's a real feeling over there that we're brutes.
Yeah, we're the adventurers.
I don't know how much we adventured, but we messed over the Native Americans pretty good. But
sure,
didn't Bill Murray say we were a mutt?
A mutt? What,
yeah,
just a mix
that's
of everything.
From Stripes.
Yeah. Well, what other stories do you have before we go on to the Geek of the Week? How was France?
Well, I could go on and on.
I know you will.
But anyway, I will just tell you this. It was 25 years between my first time and my second time going to Ireland. I've been back a few times since, and I will continue to go. And it's great to have family over there who are both wonderful people and very welcoming. And they're everything that you've heard about the Irish. They're charming, they're generous, they're kind, they're interesting, they're funny as hell. And it's great.
Would you take Marc and I?
Shawn, I've offered to take you on a trip many times for a carton of Marlboros.
Would you take Marc and I to Ireland, though?
Yeah, you actually asked me if I had any interest in going. Yeah. I did, but
I want to go see Chelsea with you.
I know. I got that whole family in the way.
Not
work in the way.
Clinton,
can we do that?
Yeah. Do what?
Yeah.
Can we go to Ireland together?
Are you paying?
And let Mike take us around?
Yeah, but I want to stay with his family.
Depends on the soulmates. We'll have to get some new subscribers. Yeah, and by the way, my cousins asked me why they call you Pretty Mouth Windsor.
Well, I mean, the answer is just look at him.
I missed a couple episodes, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek? Or we're turning into cool guys?
So I was going to offer a travel advisory about pickpockets in Lyon, but maybe I'll save that for next week.
No. I want to hear more about. We're running out of time.
No, that's fine, but you'll be the first person to complain about. Well, we're at an hour and 15. People don't want to listen over.
Well, can't we just cut the rest of the show? I want to hear about his travels in France.
Let's tease the pickpocket for next week. That's a pretty crazy story.
Oh, you stole someone's wallet?
No.
Oh,
I've been backpacking all over the world since 1991. This is the first time I ever got pickpocketed, and it was pretty impressive operation. I'll just tell you that. But let's get to the Geek of the Week, because it's a good one. It's Dan Bongino, who on his podcast on January 4th of 2024 cited, as he often had, the, quote, national security nightmare, end quote, surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been speculated by many people who are extremely credible, Bongino told his listeners, including multiple sources to others and to me, one I spoke to directly, that there are multitudes of tapes of various associates of Epstein engaged in similar acts of abuse, so on and so forth. Anyways, Bongino, like some local reporters, likes to say that they're the only reporter doing the work because other reporters don't copy their work. Well, sometimes it's because other reporters rely on the facts. Well, that's where Bongino finds himself, because he says in the same podcast that a journalist said she was 100% convinced that Epstein was killed because he made his whole living blackmailing people. Bongino told his audience these claims were super important, adding that he'd heard the same thing from another reporter. Now, this is the key part. This is where I get really upset at the media, Bongino said, claiming the media is done almost like, no, maybe I wasn't investigated before. It's like, I'm amazed at how few people are putting two and two together, suggesting that the media had not reported that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered because we're either lazy, incompetent, or we don't care. Well, guess where Dan Bongino is now?
Yeah.
He's the deputy director of the FBI, and he has access to all of these records now. And he recently told fellow unfounded conspiracy enthusiast Maria Bartiromo that Epstein, wait for it, killed himself. Listen, so Bartiromo challenges him, says, you said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it. I wonder why. Yeah. Listen, they have a right to their opinion, Bongino's boss, FBI Director Kash Patel, also a fabulist.
But that's
and he added, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what this was. Oh, really? Because for years you said it was the exact opposite.
I got to ask you this. Is that really an opinion? I mean, he either killed himself or he was killed. And if all the evidence suggests that he hung himself, you know what? He fucking hung himself.
Well, here's the deal.
This is my big problem with Twitter and social media and a lot of the grifts you see, the talking heads that have no editorial process or a boss above them where they can just get on YouTube and say whatever is. At some point, you got to prove it, right? Especially if things go to court, you have to prove it in a court of law. You can say whatever you want. I just am amazed at the amount of sheep, and this goes on both sides, that will just follow something because they like the personality of the person saying it.
Or they like the attitude, or it syncs with their worldview, or they're a pathetic worm, so everything's got to be a conspiracy because they're not a loser because they're a loser. They're a loser because everybody's out to get them.
Well, I'm all for asking questions. I think we should ask questions, but part of asking questions is to accept answers, no matter where they come from.
Reporting, unlike Dan Bongino and Kash Patel's world, is like the scientific method. You keep asking questions. Once you think you know something, you keep trying to disprove it. And if you can't disprove it, you report it. But if you can't prove it in the first place, you sure as hell don't report it. So this kind of bullshit helped get Dan Bongino this job. Well, guess what comes with that job? The facts. And the truth is, it's easy to talk shit when you don't know shit and to criticize the media, which, unlike Dan Bongino and his clown world, we only work with the facts. So welcome to the real world, Dan Bongino. And if it feels a little harsh because now the people who followed you are now attacking you, maybe this balm will ease your mind. You're our Geek of the Week.
I have a feeling you're going to be investigated by the FBI now.
Are Claire and Khalil taking notes?
Hey, ask them what their favorite part of that rant was.
Are they taking notes on how to be a reporter?
I'm done being your handmaidens, fellas.
Come on, ask them their favorite part. That's what they agree. Hey, let's see. Since it's almost the end of the world, right?
Oh, dear.
And you're going to be screwed either way. Why not ask Luke Nowacki for help in managing your investment portfolio as the whole country is going to implode like the last days of Rome? You have nothing to lose because you can't lose. Well, you don't have much to lose other than 100%, right?
Yeah.
You know, the market,
that's all of it.
In all honesty, the market's up. It's down. Tariffs are on. Tariffs are off. I mean, it's just an insane ride. So get your shit together and call Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748. Oh, he's sideways now. 4748. 248-663-4748 to get a full, overview of your finances. Because when you call Luke,
He'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
I wanted to see if he was paying attention. Guess what? He was.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. member FINRA-SIPC.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc.
But there's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
I was just talking about the market going up and down, and that reminded us of a room 7609 request. Just got to find it. This is coming from Todd, who's he writes only to Elrick, so don't listen, Shawn. It's not to you and me.
Okay.
With the stock market resembling a roller coaster, I'm going to suggest the definitive new wave band, The Cars, Up and Down. And he wants to know he's not a soulmate yet, but he does buy the paper. So I guess that's good enough.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Todd.
It's actually much cheaper to become a soulmate.
Where'd you go, Shawn? You left your frame.
Thanks, Todd. Thank you, Todd, for reading.
So here it is, The Cars, Up and Down. And speaking of cars, we'll be back with Elrick in his car in just a little bit.
You have to be so hard to get, especially with those samurais. You might have been a neon lover, but you didn't have to advertise.
That's a deep cut from the Cars.
Yeah. So who's singing that? Which one? Benjamin Orr or Rick Ocasek? Can you tell?
You know, I was going to ask the same question. I'm going to guess Rick Ocasek, but it's so hard to tell with those guys.
It really is. It's really hard to tell. Sometimes you can, but that one's a little hard. That it's an Ocasek song. He wrote it and sung it.
You know, now that would be a great documentary. The Rick Ocasek, Paulina Porzakova relationship. Has anybody done anything on that yet? I think there's been magazine articles, but
yeah, no, that's a good point. I really haven't seen. I don't think I've even seen a definitive Cars documentary, which I you know, if it had everything in it. But they're a really fascinating band. I mean, to have two lead singers writing songs, it's pretty unique. Like, who else does that? The Clash. I can't think of many other bands. I mean, the Beatles.
Styx probably had, you know, you had Tommy and then Dennis DeYoung.
But I mean, at the same time, because
I'm not saying great band. I'm just saying, you know.
Because I was gonna say Chicago. You know, Chicago had two different lead singers, but those are at two different times.
The Fifth Dimension.
Doobie Brothers, Doobie Brothers for sure, but different times.
Yeah, and the Van Halen
and changed the whole makeup of the band. The whole sound.
Well, the same goes for Van Halen. I mean, you can totally tell which one has Roth and which one has Hager. But you know, the Cars.
But there are lots of bands that have two strong voices and they break up because it's who's the alpha dog and who's you know who's A1 and who's A2.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like who's broken up over that. Not many, really.
The Beatles, because they had George Harrison, he was A3.
Yeah, I know. That just shows how incredibly great that band is. Ringo even had #1 hits.
Yeah, Ringo's just like, I can sing a song every once in a while, bro.
But his songs are good too, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I like. Take control, man. Producer.
Okay.
Boss.
So that's a classic 7609 selection, a new wave deep cut from a band that you know, but turns out you didn't know them as well as you thought you did. So Todd, thank you for the entry. Thank you for the story. If you would like to send us your nomination for Room 7609, send it to mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. That's also where you can send us your feedback. But before you send us your feedback, would you consider sending us your money? Mark, can you tell the old heads how they can do it the one and done simple way?
Technology has made it very easy. mlsoulofdetroit.com. You can click on the PayPal link there or the Venmo link, which brings up, what's it called? Daisy House LLC?
No, we switched it.
Oh,
we
you
finally
did switch
got
it
switched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of all your shell companies and your movement, where the money goes.
I've got some stable coin.
Run with that,
crypto,
Bongino. see what you can do with that, Bongino.
Yeah, Pam Bondi's going to be waiting for me at the dock there at Mackinaw.
There you go. So yeah, we appreciate any send. And of course, there's Patreon where you can be a member of the Soulmates and you can see the video. You can see Elrick being chauffeured around in the back of the car, or when Shawn just disappears off frame.
I'm right here.
He's like a rooster just strutting around. Rooster, by the way, national symbol.
I'm right here
France.
for now.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
do we have any feedback this week?
Yes, we do. You can also write to us at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com, which is what Nancy did. She said, always a fun show, but Shawn's stories are the best. And she capitalized best, so I think she really feels that way.
Wait, all 4 letters or just the B?
All 4. She's screaming at it.
You call Nancy a B? It's all 4.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, you never know what a Shawn story is gonna entail when it comes out.
You know what must be?
It usually involves some sort of crime.
You know what I'd like to know?
Or drugs.
No.
Well, that's against the law. It's controlled.
I gotta believe your car mates, our colleagues, Claire and Khalil, are wondering what exactly, what kind of podcast that you run and you're on where they've heard you talk now nonstop for 45 minutes. Like, do they think it's a solo podcast? What do you think, Mark?
Well, Claire is very familiar with it, having been a guest. Thanks for remembering, Shawn.
No, that was a while ago.
Oh, a while ago. All those beans mess with your memory? Is that what happened?
I think it was so long ago. I don't think I was here for that one, believe it or not. I think I was actually on a vacation for that one. That's how long ago. You got to get her back in. Yeah.
Might have been it. That's when she revealed that Michigan had a poet laureate, but we didn't. And when she was reporting it, that we had all this money budgeted.
Oh, I remember.
Before
Okay,
the
I do
story
remember that.
ran, I think they jammed somebody in there, and her shit didn't even rhyme. That's how big a rush they were in.
How perfectly government is that? Where they get buses, so they hurry up and do it really quick. It's like when they're the most.
You know what ambient pentameter is? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You got
how
it.
does he remember, Mark? I mean, his memory is amazing.
He does have an amazing memory.
It's incredible. I listen to the details, the names. I mean, he's not just remembering the trip. He just took in the names of everybody. I mean, I would struggle to do that. He's going back to 1991.
It's because he didn't burn his brain with beans.
Yeah, or he's going back to 1984 and remembered specifically where he turned and ducking into the names of the people in the buddy in the driveway and all this. It's amazing. It's really something.
He's kissing your ass there, Elrick.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm jealous. Not
Shawn,
jealous. I'm not really jealous of anything. I'm envious. How about that?
Okay.
I wish
Shawn
I had
knows
that kind of memory.
I'll do anything I can to mention Jeffrey Eugenides on the show every week. Get the bell ready.
Who?
The author.
Oh,
Jeffrey Eugenides.
That's right. Yeah, go back to his house. Yeah. Oh, for God's sake. Well, drive safe. What are you going to do? You know what you're going to reporting on? Is there anything that really you're focused on heading up to Mackinac? Or
not.
Do you know, well, come on. That's important. You can read it in the Free Press or freep.com.
I'm on vacation this week.
I can tell.
I'll be writing about the mayoral debate. I'll be seeing what's going on with the senatorial candidates, with the gubernatorial candidates. And crazy things happen here. Last year, out of the blue, Mike Duggan announced that he was going to endorse Mary Waters for Congress against Shri Tanadar. So some things
How'd that
happen.
work out?
As you pointed out at the top of the show, Mark, most of the news that comes out of this is not on the agenda. So we're going there. We've got, two of the Free Press's best reporters and then another guy in the back seat who are going to tell people what's going on.
That's their favorite part of the show.
It's $1 a month, by the way, to subscribe to the Free Press. You have the SPJ Detroit Opinion Writer of the Year here. You can get his stuff for $1 a month. Clara's cranking out the news you need about the legislature every day, making Shawn and I look bad. That's $1 a month, and and we'll find some good stuff. We always find some really interesting things here, and I'm a little bummed out because I found out. Because he was a fan of the podcast, that I knew the chief of police here in Mackinaw Island for a while. He has since moved on. Congratulations, Dennis. But that kind of connection is crucial because when I first started coming up here more than 20 years ago, my last stop before I would get on the ferry is at the Michigan State Police Outpost to see if any of the lawmakers or legislators had gotten busted over the weekend.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would never see them in the logbook. But you may remember there was a case about 20 years ago. At the time, a very well-known state senator, Mike Bishop, claimed that he had been assaulted on Mackinac Island getting into a carriage. And after the whole case played out, what turned out was that he was intoxicated, had gotten in a carriage, may have said some things to a young woman in the carriage that the young woman's young man didn't appreciate. And he pounded some lumps on Bishop. And that was that. So, there's always news up here. It's not what you go looking for. It's what you bring back that makes it worth that $1 a week.
And now that you don't know the chief of police up there, don't try outrunning the cops.
You have to outrun them because there's no vehicles. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless you're a rustler, then you can just jump on a horse and go. I don't know what would I do with a Clydesdale, but yeah, no. Dennis has moved on to probably less green pastures because it's pretty green up there. But
Shawn, you've been picking up some Free Press slack covering the Tigers. I enjoy you writing on the beat. It's kind of nice to.
Yeah,
I always read it in this voice in my head.
First time. That's the first time I was nervous in a long time.
Really?
On the first, I don't know if maybe I talked about this last week. Maybe I didn't. The first day, which was a week ago Monday, game one of the series in St. Louis, on the way to the park, I had a pit in my stomach.
Oh, really? That's good.
I hadn't done that kind of work. I hadn't done that kind of work in a long time. Yeah, and I was like, God, can I still do this? Can I dust off? And no, it was a good challenge. I wrote columns too. But, every now and again I'm in a huge game and you feel a little bit of, you want to meet the moment, make sure you're doing your job. I'm used to that kind of pressure as a columnist, but the beat work where you're responsible in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, my stomach was in knots for a minute. And then once I got the first game done, then I was fine. But
then you went back into Shawn mode?
No. I cranked, man. I try to crank.
It was good.
I mean, it may not seem like it me sitting here, but
I know.
Yeah, I try to crank.
You work hard.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no. And if you want to support Shawn's writing, you could subscribe to the Free Press for 4 cigarettes a month.
Well, you're on vacations, and you got work to do, Elrick. Shawn, you're on vacation, so I don't know who wants the honors.
Well, I'm here, and that's not. I don't want the honors for that. I'm just saying, when I'm on vacation, I'm still here. Unfortunately, how did that work? Yeah,
is that a shot? Was that a shot at Elrick?
No. I just want to. If he takes me to Ireland, then we're good.
Oh, before we go, I got to say, Blue Lights is the BBC show.
Oh, that's incredible. It's about I've watched it.
Rookie cops in Belfast.
It's incredible.
If you've been to Ireland, it is noteworthy how different the North is from the Republic. It's incredible, and the accent is unlike anything you've ever heard.
Yeah,
it's just
check it
tremendous.
out, Marc. Blue Lights is just fantastic.
And what obscure streaming service is this one on?
Is it Acorn?
BBC?
Is it Acorn or is it BritBox? One of the two.
Oh, so I'm
Prime.
not
You
sure
could
who it's
probably get it
available
through-
on.
You could get it through Prime.
I have so many streaming services as it is.
Instead of sleeping on the way back, I decided to watch every episode of the first season. So I got through the first half hour of the last episode when we had to change planes. And we changed planes, and the next plane we got on didn't have screens, so I couldn't watch the so don't ruin the last half hour of the first.
But didn't you enjoy it, Mike? It's just terrific.
Well, and that guy, Shawn, I'm sure you recognize the IRA guy was the cop in the other police procedural with I'm drawing a blank on her name from the X-Files.
Oh my God. Gillian
Red-haired.
Gillian
Anderson, yes.
Yep.
He was the police executive who had been a former lover of Gillian Anderson's, who tried to rekindle their relationship, and she spurned him. He was clean-cut, top-ranking cop in the Crown Police Service. In Blue Lights, he's the leader of the biggest crime syndicate in Belfast.
By the way, there's another interesting show.
Great actor.
Another interesting show about the Troubles on Hulu, and I can't think of the name, but I'll get it for you.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's good.
I watched the first 2 episodes. And it's,
no, it's a little too.
Oh, I got a British show for you. Watch
called Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Watch the documentary on Fred and Rosemary West, the serial killers in England. Huh?
Oh, there you go.
Huh?
There
so
you
now I'm
go.
tying it all together. Murder in England.
There you go. By the way, before you go, Mike, before we take
this is like the 5th, by the way.
No. Just real quickly. It takes 2 seconds. Will you at least please pan the camera so we can see who you're riding with?
Where are you at, by the way?
We are
Royal Oak.
We're approaching Holly.
Oh, you're making good time.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, we could have recorded
Oh,
earlier.
there we go. There we go.
Oh.
Wow, look at that. Getting chauffeured. Nice.
Spoiled.
So this amazing camera work is only available to Soulmates for $5 a month. You get to watch the show. You get it before everybody else. You don't get those annoying insertions. Actually, we don't have that many insertion ads these days. I don't know what's going on. But,
economy.
But yeah, we appreciate your support. And by the way, if you're a Soulmate, when we do Soul Night at the Caju Cafe on August 1st, we're going to have some fun stuff just for you. We're going to have some exclusive swag and again, the opportunity to get your picture taken on Shawn's lap. Don't let that keep you away. It's not compulsory.
All right, good to see you, bud. Safe travels. Keep up the good work. We look forward to listening to more stories. Not more stories, but your stories about France next week. Anything else?
Pickpocket. No.
Yeah, and your pickpocket especially.
Boy, you are
formerly
in
owned.
vacation mode. I love it.
All right.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll be posting stories every day from Mackinac. Well, not me. Clara will be. I'll be taking advantage of the open bar. But we will have stories this week from Mackinac.
All right, we look forward to it. And Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Sharpen your geography skills. Increase your knowledge of diverse world cultures. And make history come alive as you chase
ML Elrick
around the globe. Meet real people. Hear authentic sounds. As you use state-of-the-art high-tech tools, figure out how to succeed in a world where learning is king and knowledge is power. It's a call from the chief. Your passport is stamped. You're about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. It's up to you to figure out where in the world is
ML Elrick.
Catch me if you can.